Climber, don't let your trip to Nashville be a waste of time and money. It's an incredible opportunity, but only if you make the most of it. So we're going to help you do that today on The Climb. Johnny, do that thing.
Welcome to The Climb! This is a show dedicated to helping singers, songwriters, and indie artists like you create leverage in the music business. You have leverage, you have respect, and everybody's going to want to work with you because it's all based on what's really happening with the show. That's really the seat that you want to be in, guys, and that's why we put it The Climb. C.L.I.M.B, creating leverage in the music business. Get it? Get it? Did you get it?
I got it.
So that was a backstream created by my good friend and co-host, Mr. Brent Baxter. He's an award-winning hit songwriter with cuts by Alan Jackson, Randy Travis, Lady A, Joe Nichols, and more. Got a couple Southern Gospel number ones recently. Got a Australian top 10. Got another one on the charts right now. He's a busy boy, and what I love about him is he helps songwriters like you turn pro by revealing how you write like a pro, do business like a pro, and then on the regular, he's going to connect you with the pros, help you create some relationships so that you can climb up that ladder. You can find Brent very easily at songwritingpro.com.
That's right. And I would like to introduce you to my co-host, Johnny Dwinell. Johnny owns Daredevil Production. They're breaking artists digitally by identifying new fans through data. Yeah, it sounds complicated, but Johnny's smart. If you're an artist looking to increase your streams, blow up your video views, sell more live show tickets, and get discovered by new fans, TV, and music industry pros, then Daredevil Production can help. Daredevil has worked with multi-platinum artists like Colin Ray, Tracy Lawrence, Ty Herndon, and Andy Griggs, just to name a few. You can find Johnny at daredevilproduction.com. That is production singular, no S, and there's no S because there is no other Johnny D.
What's happening?
Yo. So life is good. I recently got back from a trip to Nashville, and I thought, I get asked about this a lot. I'm going to Nashville. What do I do? So I thought, hey, let's take notes on this trip and see what happens.
Okay. I like that. I like that a lot.
So that's what we're going to talk about is how to maximize your next trip to Nashville.
All right. Well, let's get down to some business first and get it out of the way so we can find out how to maximize that trip.
That's right.
Join the Climb community on Facebook. This is a private group. It's thriving. There's a lot of activity. We want you to come in and join our happy homestead. Okay. You have to go to facebook.com/groups/the Climb community, or you can search for the Climb community on Facebook. Ask to be let in because everybody has to ask to be let in. Then we let everybody in, unless I think you're a bot, in which case
not.
Or if I feel like you're going to try to sell us some carpet cleaner or whatever, it's a cell phone service or whatever, then you'll be roadhoused out. And just be good citizens. We have plenty of places to hear about your gigs. We want to hear about your new music. We want to hear about your wins. And you put all that information in there as a comment on the weekly posts that we put out there. And believe me, you're going to be showered with love. You're going to love it. But only use the main feed for stuff that's universal for everybody, news, information, anything that's funny, anything that's just like a vulgar display of prowess musically that's not you, right? Put that in there, and that's that. But let's share some wins.
That's right. Every Wednesday we post the New Heights post. You see some mountains that says New Heights. That is where the party is. That's where we want to hear about your music-related wins for the week or recently. And you hop in there. Hey, you're not bragging. You're just answering the question. What was the recent win for you? And here are a few from this past week. Johnny Matt Music says, I got selected as a possible act to perform as an open act in New York. So good luck with that, Johnny Matt. Hope you get that spot and rock it out. That'd be awesome. Want to hear about it if that happens.
Yeah, I want to know. That's a nice at-bat.
Yes. Sunday Joe Graham says, finished up a song with Randy Morrison and Marla Rubenstein. And having a house concert in my backyard this weekend featuring Christy, and I'm not sure if it's pronounced Buddy or Bud, all the way from Nashville. Signed up for the NSAI Rise program. Looking forward to that. So congrats and good luck with that, Sunday Joe. And also here we have climber Carrie Cunningham says, I have 3 songs that are going into regular rotation on 2 different stations. One is in South Africa and the other is in the UK. So that is A-okay.
Nice.
So
Good for you.
good job, Carrie. And so she's been on the climb before. We did a video content challenge with her. I want to say that is the most downloaded video content challenge that we have done, was the one with Carrie
Yeah.
Cunningham, one of her
Cece.
videos.
Cece. Yeah.
So
I haven't seen her in
working
a
it.
while, but I like her. She's one of my favorite climbers. Yeah, she's extremely talented.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, you ready to get into this?
Let's do it. Follow the podcast wherever you consume your podcast content, and lastly, tell a friend about it. You guys, we don't get over 10,000 downloads a month from people who are on a goodwill program because it's morally the right thing to do. Listen to Johnny and Brent. Like
Right.
no, they're getting something out of it.
It's
and,
not
and
my
we
wife and
like
kids listening. I know that.
that's right. Although that would be 10,000.
Although that I should make them listen, just because
That
that
could
would
double our
definitely
content. Your
pump up the
family
numbers.
is so freaking big.
Right.
All right, talk to me. I'm coming to Nashville. What do I need to do?
Yeah, so I get this question from time to time, either Songwriting Pro members. Usually that's where that comes up. Go, hey, got a trip coming up. What should I go do? Who should I see? What do I, big question marks, right? And so, especially since I'm also making trips to Nashville, I live in Southwest Missouri. God moved our family there. My wife's hometown with some of our kids with special needs and everything. So I'm making trips back. And so it's not quite the same experience as maybe if you're making your first or second trip, but I think there's some overlap. And so I just want to dive into that. And the thing is, Nashville is filled with music venues, record labels, publishing companies. It's like the perfect destination for anyone looking to break into music, especially if you're in country or Christian music, but also for rock and pop. It's all there. We did a Know the Pro event last night at the time of this recording with John Moses. He works for the Bus Music. They do a lot of film and TV. He just recently moved to Nashville from LA, and they've gotten stuff on ESPN, HBO, Netflix, whatever. And so there's a lot of film and TV stuff happening and popping off much more in Nashville. So it's a great place to go for all that kind of stuff. But here are some ways to maximize your visits to Nashville. And you know what? I added, as we were talking, I added like another little asterisk to this list because we mentioned on the last episode how we got to hang out with like Tracy Richardson, Kathy Wallace, and Bill O'Hanlon, and different people. Well, I think it was Tracy. It might have either been her or Kathy, but I think it was Tracy Richardson that said she had driven in from Indiana, and she's like, and I was listening to the climb all the way down. So I'm like, that's one way you maximize your trip
I
is,
love where you're going with this.
is load up on the climb before your drive,
Mm-hmm.
and it will make it go wonderfully, and you'll be all fired up and educated by the time you
Yeah,
get
and
there.
you'll be smarter than when you left.
Exactly. Use that commute time well. So I
That's what
believe
it
that
is.
was Tracy. So if it
I
was
love
Kathy, well, either way, it's brilliant. So, all right.
that.
First thing you want to do is you want to plan ahead. You want to start reaching out to people early. You want to contact your PRO at least a month and a half out from your trip. So PRO are the performing rights organizations. There are three of them. All have offices in Nashville. In the U.S., there are three of them. There's CSAC, BMI, and ASCAP. You can only be a member of one at a time. Sometimes you can get a meeting even if you aren't a member yet, especially if you have some stuff going on. Start calling, see if you can get a meeting with a writer's rep. If you're not a member of any, call them all and
Mhm.
see where you can get a meeting. If you're a BMI writer, for example, start calling BMI. Hey, I'm coming in from out of town. And you
Yep.
you got to be patient. They don't have time to meet with everybody. It's like everything else in the music business. There's a lot bigger supply than there's demand
Yep.
for these things. But hey, if you don't try and start early, it's not going to happen. I remember when I was living in Arkansas, Woo Pig, that living in Little Rock, and it's like, okay, my buddy Tim and I are going to make a trip to Nashville over spring break because that's what
Mhm.
happens. I need to start calling PROs early. I need to start calling ASCAP early. For me, join ASCAP actually in about 2000. So it would have been after college. So it wouldn't have been a spring break trip. It would have just been, it's time to go. And so we'd go, and I'd start calling early, leaving voicemails and just trying to be professionally persistent. And ironically, my first meeting at ASCAP was with Mike Doyle, who ended up being my song plugger at Major Bob Music years later.
Yeah. There you
So
go.
he did not remember me. And I was like, hey, Mike, you were my first PRO meeting at ASCAP. He goes, oh, no, what did I say? I'm like, I got notes. can hear the notes.
Hmm.
So anyway, you want to start early. Be patient. It's not personal if you can't get in to see them. Maybe you'll get moved over to like a Zoom meeting. I think all the PROs are doing a little bit more of that stuff,
Mhm.
and that's all right too. But it takes longer to lock down a meeting than you think it will. So
Mhm.
start early. And that's the same with any publishers or anyone else you may have connections with that you want to meet with. Start early. Let them know you're coming, um, and that just increases your chance of getting some meetings. So the second thing you want to do is you want to set up co-writes. Again, reach out early. So if you don't know anyone, well, guess what? Join the Climb community. That's facebook.com/groups/the Climb community. We have climbers that live in Nashville. We have climbers that travel to Nashville on a regular basis who
Yep.
are looking for co-writers. And so what you do is you go like on the Music Monday and you share some of your stuff and you listen through and you'd be like, oh, Sunday Joe, that's awesome. Oh, Bill O'Hanlon, that's great. Or whoever, right?
Yep.
And I say these
And
names
who
because
you'd
these
like to
people,
write with.
right?
Yeah.
And by the way, I say these names because these people are active in the community, so they're top of
Yep.
mind. Hint, hint,
Yep.
pro tip there. But you listen, you make connections, and then you can be like, hey, I'm coming into town in a month and a half. I would love to get together and write that way because they have a chance to hear your music. You have a chance to hear theirs. If you're in the songwriting pro community, we have several song pros that live in Nashville or make regular trips. And you can get to meet them through our monthly co-writer cafe and jam sessions that are free with your membership. You get in and we break up into small groups where you get to meet each other and chit chat, get to know each other a little bit. That's a great way if you don't already have co-writers stationed in Nashville for you to start meeting some people so you have kind of a landing pad when you get there. You're like, oh, it might, who knows? It might even turn into like a free place to stay and crash on somebody's couch. Hey, that doesn't hurt the wallet, right? That's more
That's
demo
right.
money available.
That's right.
But that's if you're a Songwriting Pro member, if you're a climber, let us know that you're making a trip. That would be appropriate to put
Mhm.
in the feed. Hey, making a trip to Nashville on these dates, looking for stuff to do, looking for co-writes. Hey,
What should I
that's
do? Asking for advice? You put that in the feed. Yep.
asking for advice. That is perfect. That we'd love to have that in the feed because that gives people a chance to grow community. So ask your also don't forget about this. You're out of Nashville, you're out of town co-writers, maybe that you already have. Like, oh, I write with, Bob in Utah and Bill in Arizona or whatever. Well, they don't live in Nashville, so I'm not going to hit them up. No. Hit them up. Let them know that you're going to make a trip. Be like, hey, Bob in Utah, I'm going to be making a trip to Nashville in September. Do you have any writers there I should meet with? I should get to know.
Mhm.
Any advice? So reach out to your other out of towners because they may know somebody in town that you don't yet. Okay, so
Mhm.
don't forget. It's easy to overlook that one, but don't overlook that one because they probably know somebody, and they if they already know you and they know them, they can play matchmaker and go, yeah, hey, you can actually be good with Sally. She's great. She lives in East Nashville.
Absolutely. I mean, wonderful things happen from that. I
Mhm.
can't tell you how many rungs I've climbed up on the ladder after going, gosh, who do we know that knows this person?
Yep. Mhm.
Or, in this case, this person would be a writer in Nashville, maybe not a specific person, but
Mhm.
at the same time, I mean, like miracles happen. That's
Yeah.
how we did the Jacob Cade thing when we got Jacob to open up for Steel Panther in Denver. Sold out show, 3,600 people.
Mhm.
And I'm like, okay, I know the guys, a couple of guys from Steel Panther. We also knew who their management was. And then there was a rep for them or something that had already reached out to his mom. Once we started talking about the names of the people that we needed to reach, she's like, hold
Mhm.
on, I recognize that name. And then she went back to her text and she's like, man, this guy saw him play one time and would
Huh.
just felt he needed to reach out and say her son was amazing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we went in 3 doors. We funneled it like you're talking about.
Mhm.
Like all the PROs or call. You have to not make the call and wait to set it up. It's like call everybody. Think about this as if you're on vacation. You have a massively painful cavity in your tooth. Are you going to spend all day making a phone call, waiting for a dentist to get back to you to tell you no, and then make another call and wait for another day
Mhm.
to get back and say no? Or are you going to call 20 freaking dentists and the first
Right.
son of a bee that gets back in touch with you gets a gig?
Yeah.
Yeah, like that's the way you want to handle this, man.
That's what happened to me on my last trip to Nashville. Shortly before the trip, I had an artist co-write. they bailed on that, and so I'm like, I got a day to fill. So I started. I'm like, what does this make possible? Right? I'm
Mhm.
not looking at, oh, woe is me. What does this make possible? And I emailed around looking for last minute rides. Of course, everybody's busy. Uh, Although I did get one ride out of it, it's just from shaking the trees. The last minute, I was already in Nashville. It was Monday and hooked up a ride for Wednesday. So hey, that worked out. But then also started emailing and texting music industry contacts like publishers and stuff, and going, hey, can I drop on by? Just love to shake hands because I'm not there to sit on my hands. I'm there to work and to shake hands and write songs and all that good stuff. So just started hitting everybody back and didn't get to everybody. Some people said yes, they had time, but I didn't get around to it because they ended up booking it, but
Mhm.
had to end up with a write and a 2-hour publisher hang, which was awesome. So yes, hit them all. It'll shake itself out. All right. Also, where to write. So you try your PRO. They have some writers' rooms. If you're already a member of a PRO, I've written at CSAC. I've written at ASCAP. I don't think I've ever written at BMI, but I think they do have some rooms there.
Mhm.
NSAI has rooms if you're a member there. So you've got to call ahead to book it, right? You do
Mhm.
that, and just generally shake the bushes for places to work. That happens. I mean, when I come in town, I'm usually writing at. Sometimes I'll write at the Daredevil office. A
Mhm.
lot of times I'm writing maybe at somebody's house, or I'm writing at the different publishing companies, that sort of thing. It's just never really the same place twice. But
Yeah.
something we ask, where are you working? And maybe you're not writing with people that are published already, so you can't write at their publishing company, which is great if you can, because I'd rather write there than anywhere else because of everyone else you can bump into.
Yeah.
Man, I remember it was a while back. It was maybe last year sometime or earlier this year. I was writing over at Wide Open Music because I had a write with, I think, John Marlin and somebody else. And man, the first day I'm in there, I think it's the first time I'd been in that office in years. Walk in there and I'm waiting for my write. Maybe it was with Tulane Summer, but all of a sudden, here comes Jared Boyer. Jared, how you doing, buddy? And there's, Hunter Leith, who I've written with before. Hunter, because he's in there writing with somebody else. And then, so Marlon was in and all these different people that you're just like, hey, it's just a target rich environment. So
Yeah.
if I can
Yeah.
write at a publishing company, that's what I want to do because usually there's other people popping in and out and you can just
Yeah.
chat
It's
and
a
do that.
great way to improve and maintain your Rolodex, so to speak.
Exactly. It's just reach and frequency, right? So, and also ask your friends if they know of places that are good to write. So that's another thing. All right. The other thing you want to do is you want to make the rounds, which is like attending songwriter rounds. If you're not booked to write, go out at night. Do that.
Yeah.
That's Kathy and Tracy were both in from out of town. And guess
Mhm.
what? They went to the freak show at the local. And
Mhm.
and so we got to hang out with them. And they got to meet each other too. That we kind of put out the bat signal this time that, hey, we're going to be at the freak show
That's right.
this night. And so several people showed up, some songwriting pro members, some climbers that didn't already really know each other. They'd seen each other around maybe, but they got to sit at the table and chop it up and chat and get to know each other. So that's part of what you want to do too. So these songwriter rounds are held in venues throughout Nashville. They're a great way to meet other songwriters and industry professionals and also to get inspired, to get your butt kicked in a good way if it's an awesome round and to get
Mhm.
inspired. So, I mean, the local, the freak show, the listening room, the Bluebird, man, all Live Oak, whatever. The list goes on and on. There are just a bazillion of them in
Mhm.
Nashville. So you can just Google songwriter rounds in Nashville, whatever. It's easy to find.
That's right.
Basically, just walk into a place that has a lighted sign on after 7 p.m. and you're probably going to have a songwriter, somebody with a guitar on stage.
Yeah.
So
That's
you want
right.
to do that, go out, listen to stuff. Last time I was in, it was Monday night. I'd written with Kaylee Bishop and Chelsea Stallings that morning. And I had to write that afternoon, but I didn't have anything later. And they're like, hey, we're actually playing tonight at Live Oak at like 9. I'm like, I think I'll be done with my second ride by then. So sure enough, I was able to scoot right down there to the Live Oak and see Kaylee and Chelsea and was awesome. Got to hear a song that I'd written with them played out, which is always fun. But then there was Stacy Wilbur, who's a music publisher friend of mine I hadn't seen in person in a while. And so she was there hanging out because turns out she knows them. I didn't know she knew them. And so I'm
Uh,
like, hey, and then Ralston Wells, it was there because Ralston's everywhere. He's awesome.
Ralston is everywhere. He's like savoir faire, and savoir faire is everywhere.
Right. It I'll never forget, we were on that train in Denmark trying to find that castle, and we had left like an hour or two before Ralston, and we got so lost and turned around, we all ended up on the same train, and all of a sudden he looks up, he's like, "Hey, guys!" We're like, "Ralston!" You're like,
You're on the train too.
We
Damn.
left hours before you. Wow. Um, anyway, so it just gives you a chance to meet people you already know. I met climber and songwriting pro member Adam DeWeber
Mhm.
a couple months ago at one of those shows because like he was going out to see people, so just it gives you a chance for good things to happen. So you want to go out to shows if
And
you
you
can.
get to, I mean, even if you're not playing, man, it's like
Right.
I would just be I would just be, like, at that place all the time if I was trying to be do the
Mhm.
songwriter thing, just to listen
Yeah.
to the songs, you know what I mean? And to, like, really, like, and just and make find out where the bar is set
Mhm.
and learn how to improve your game. I mean, there's for guys like me, I gotta I kinda read about it a lot and all that stuff, but really, I gotta see it. Like, show me how to do it, and then
Mhm.
I'll master it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the biggest ratcheting up we did when I was an artist was shortly after we got our butts handed to us on a silver platter by watching somebody that was doing something truly amazing, and we're like, okay, we need to do that now. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Mhm.
Now, and so you kind of step it up. So I would just think like the very, very worst case scenario going out to like a freak show or a live oak thing or porch light pickers is you're gonna get schooled, man,
Yeah.
in the best way, you know what I mean? And
Mhm.
just really, like, to me, that was always invigorating to me, right? It wasn't depressing, it was like well, for a cocktail, it was depressing, like, then you're like, "Okay," then you regroup, you catch your breath, and you're like, "Okay, wait, I can do this. I can
Yeah.
do this," you know?
Mhm.
And then now that you know where the bar is set higher, then you try harder, and all of a sudden you hit that bar, and you're like, "Oh, now we just moved up a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay." So, yeah, man, and then best case scenario is you're gonna start making some friends,
Oh,
you're
yeah.
gonna become a familiar face and be able to hang out with everybody. That's a the freak show's a big industry hang, man, and so is, like, a
Yeah.
lot of the stuff that happens at Live Oak, you
Yeah,
know?
somebody was telling me about Why Not Wednesday, where a
Uh-huh.
lot of industry people go there. It's like, okay, I
Yeah,
need to hit that up next time. I need to go there. There's
yeah.
a lot of industry people there, so just hit a different crowd.
Where
Uh,
is that? Is that a Live Oak?
I wanna say Live Oak, but I have
I
to
was
look it
gonna say
up.
Live
Haven't
Oak,
looked it
yeah,
up yet. But
yeah.
there are other things too. It's great if you can buddy system, so that's another reason to reach out to co-writers and friends. "I'm coming in. Hey, let's go out to this thing." Gives you a wingman, which
Mhm.
is definitely helpful, but also some, "Hey, do you know anybody who's playing out? You wanna go see one of your friends?" Because
Yeah.
that way they can introduce you. And so
Yep.
that kind of the warm handoff, to use a sales term, is a lot better than a cold call or whatever. But, just going to the freak show the last couple times I've been in town, turns out that, like, Aaron Pax Taylor has been,
Yep.
playing a couple of those recent ones. And I
Good for
thought he
you,
lived
man.
in town. Turns out he doesn't even live in town anymore. He's back in Texas and making trips. He used to live in town, but I just assumed he did because he was there playing.
Mhm.
But hey, the first time that I saw him play, he came over, said hi, and we chatted for a minute. And this next time, I think you know him better, and so came over to the table and we chatted for a while. And we're still supposed to get him on the show,
Yeah.
and had just had a good chat, got to know him better. Some other people at the table that, we kind of, they got to say hi to him and meet him. And hey, will that lead to something? I don't know. First time I met him, I was like, I may never see this cat again. I don't know. I've seen him around before, but then,
Mhm.
reach and frequency, we bump into each other again. And now we have more of like, oh, I get to know him better. And I like his vibe. He seems like a cool dude. And he's working hard, good head on
Yeah.
his shoulders. And just, you don't always know you may seem like a little pointless to go up and say hi to somebody, right? Like that
Yeah.
you saw on stage and they were really good, and it may just like, well, kind of what's the point?
Yeah.
Well, point is you don't know.
Yeah.
It's that it may not, you may get another at bat, you may get a third, and then it kicks in. You're like, "Whoa, really glad I said hi that first time." Right?
Yeah, I
Well,
mean, I never as an artist, I never got upset if, after every because one person came up to me too many times at the end of too many shows and said, "Thought it was great."
right.
Never upset me, you know what I mean? Like, and so
Right.
you catch them in a time when they got a moment to talk, and all of a sudden, yeah, you start a relationship,
Mhm.
and yeah, that's the
So, and also, yes, if you can play out around, that's great too. And when you go, and if you do play out around, because there's some places you can do that open mic night, sometimes at the end of the night. So the
Mhm.
butt end of the night, they'll, okay, get up there. I know that's how it used to be some at some places like the Commodore and that sort
I
of
was
thing.
just gonna mention the Commodore.
Mhm,
That seems to be a really good, ground zero, right, for
mhm,
newbies that are coming into town.
mhm.
Like, who, is it Debbie Champion, I think,
It
still is
Does she
running
still do that?
that. I think so.
Wow.
So, I mean, it's a kind of an institution, right? You'd
That
be
yeah,
amazed at how many hit songwriters started their first day on the Commodore. I think it's Thursday nights. It's at the, Holiday Inn
on West End,
Hotel on West End, which is right by Vanderbilt
Centennial.
campus. So it's
Yeah,
kinda like in front of the stadium.
and right across from Centennial Park.
Yep. And, sort of kitty corner to the local where the freak show is, right?
Right.
Um, so so yeah, that's like freak shows Wednesday night. I know there's uh, a Live Oak thing on Tuesday night,
Mhm.
and I'm trying to remember whose that was. It's a guy's got a lot of cuts and stuff. I can't remember his freaking name right now.
Oh.
And then Thursday night, you can do Commodore, right?
Mhm,
And you have to get there early to put your name in. So it's kind of like a lottery, depending on where you're fall where you'll fall there. But
mhm.
if you get there early and or reach out to Debbie in advance, then you can get a slot, right?
Yeah.
And make sure that you can perform.
The
Uh,
thing about that is you wanna make sure that you're not just going there to get discovered, but you're going there to discover and be discovered by your peer group,
yeah,
by the
find out
other
what's
people
special.
in the round, by the people that are in the audience that are other songwriters, and that sort of thing. So you wanna be listening to the other people, not just, killing time on your phone till you get to go up there and wait for a manager to hear you or whatever. You wanna
Yeah,
be paying attention to them, chatting it up with them, that sort of thing. Compliments are always nice, especially when they're sincere. And then you get a chance to go up and play, and hopefully they dig your stuff too. And you're trading numbers, and maybe
that's
the
right.
next time you're in, that becomes a right. And so it's this kind of snowball effect. So that's
That's
the
right.
thing. Next up, you want to prepare for the demo derby. Is
Yeah.
It's also important to have a demo or recording of your songs. It doesn't have to be full demo. It could be guitar, vocal, piano, vocal, something good and clean that will allow you to share your music with industry professionals and other songwriters. Maybe you just have a link that you can share. Like, oh, I'll send you a link. Because
Mhm.
these days it's not so much like carrying around CDs. Heck, when I first started making trips to Nashville, it was like cassette tape with lyrics, with contact information, the name of the songs and my contact info on the cassette tape, and then on the lyric sheet that are rubber banded to the cassette stuck in my back pocket. That's how I rolled. And son of a gun, it helped me get where I am today. So don't
Yeah.
hate.
I do the same thing. That's how I got hooked up with friggin' Warner Brothers, dude. I was at the new music seminar
Mhm.
in Times Square in New York City, and it's the first time I'd ever been in New York City. So of course, go to Times Square,
Yep. Me
and
too.
I just was walking to go meet a buddy of mine for lunch, and all of a sudden somebody's like, "Hey, man, hey, hey, hey!" He tracks me down. I was like, "What's going on?" He's like, "Tell me you're a singer." I'm like, "I'm a singer." He's like, "Tell me you're in a band." I'm like, "I'm in a band." He's like, "Tell me you got a demo." I'm like, "Shabonk," like right here. He's like, "Let's go to lunch." I was like, "Okay." That was Rob Cavallo, man, from from Warner.
Oh my
I mean,
gosh.
he loved it, and we struck up a friendship, and we're able to like he turned us on to music, and we were just kind of putting the whole railroad track together to lay down create the relationship for a deal, and then they just stopped doing the hairband stuff,
Yeah.
but that's how it happened. It was just like, okay, let's go to
It's
lunch.
where preparation meets opportunity, right?
Yeah, yeah,
There you go.
exactly. So yeah, have the link
Yeah, these
and
days it's more of a link or, "Hey, here's my Instagram, here's," which is why that's a reason to put stuff up. Just last night, I was at the time of this recording, we did a Know the Pro with, publisher who works in film and TV a lot.
Mhm,
And just from his vibe, I thought, "I gotta hook him up with Wilkes." Jason Wilkes,
mhm.
buddy of mine, climber, friend of the show, has
You've
been
been
on.
crushing it on digital
Yeah,
content,
he's
by
leveled up. I'm like, I need to call him and go, "Dude, what's up?"
I know. I had to text him and just be like, "Dude, I just texting you to tell you that your freaking digital game is on point. Like,
Nice.
he was,
Nice.
like, in my feed all the time, like, in
Mhm.
reels all the time, and I'm just like, "This is" and it's, like, compelling content. I was like, "Dude, way to go." Like,
Oh, yeah.
super
Yeah, he's telling stories from the road because he's done it. He's been doing it for years, like, and there's "Hey, here's the craziest thing ever happened to me at a show," and then he
yeah,
starts, right? So
yeah,
he gives you that, and then he tells a story, and it's a good story, and he's funny, and I like him,
yeah,
and but he's low key funny, because he's an introvert. But anyway, but I was like, I gotta hook this guy up. Like, I think they'd vibe, and I know Wilkes, he's got the goods. Like,
yeah,
he's so good, and I want good things for him. And so after the event, I'd text, JMO, like, hey, can I, you know, introduce you to the guy, killer, singer, songwriter, producer, blah, blah, blah. He's like, yeah, man, I'd love to listen. I'm like, here's his Instagram handle. And like 10 minutes later, he's like, dude, love him. Would love to connect. I'm like, great. And the reason he can do that is because Wilkes has been putting stuff out to be
yep,
discoverable for him to hear him do cover songs and originals and tell story, whatever. And you're findable, you're discoverable. It's better than me just going, he's great. Okay, well, in this case, I ain't lying. But how much does he know? But it can say, here's the handle, and he can go and see for himself and hear for himself. Go, oh yeah, he is good. So you got to have stuff out there. So maybe it's not, if it's a link, it may just be
and
an Instagram
shout out
handle.
to him, and humble brag to us, a humble brag. Okay.
Okay, what? What's that?
He's an early climber, man.
Yeah,
He's God, I mean, from day one, he'd been listening, and
I'm
I
like, that's
remember,
like 4 houses ago for me. I think when we had him on the show.
yeah, and I remember him saying that uh, he was one of those artists that had a snobby, and this is his words, right? He had like a snobby mindset about doing cover songs. He's
Mm,
like, I want people to know me for my music. And then in one of the early episodes where we were talking about YouTube, and I'm just like, you think you're better than the Beatles because they did covers. 50%
right.
of of the first five records were all covers. How about the Stones? First two records were all covers, except for so he's like, you guys, you shamed me,
Uh,
and it was logic into like realizing that, okay, I did some covers, and then he did six covers
mhm.
and put them on YouTube, and was then gets a call from The Voice,
Hmm.
and goes on The Voice and did well on The Voice,
He did. He did.
So, I mean, you know what? But like, to your point, it's like you put the content out there, you become discoverable,
Yeah.
and consistency matters, and he's doing all that. But I just, that was a prideful moment for me, and it was really cool of him because he's super humble to tell us the truth on that. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? And to do that. But he was, I mean, don't get me wrong, like all Jason's success is Jason's. Like,
Yeah, he's put a lot of work in.
yeah, he's got so much going on, man. It's so good. But it's fun that we had like a little moment where just like,
Yeah.
just a gentle touch on some of his inspiration in the right direction, and boom, he all of a sudden he's getting way more exposure, and he's
Mhm.
getting, like, I love that.
Yeah, it's great. So another thing you want to do in preparing to maximize your trip to Nashville is you want to research. You want to research the music industry, identify key players in the industry. I mean, you should be doing this anyway. You want to be a student of the game and you student of the players in the game. So
Yeah.
this includes record labels, publishing companies, managers, agents, artists. You can also research music venues and events in Nashville to get a feel for the local music scene. So there are ways you can do this. There's musicrow.com, which is Music Row magazine. You can sign up for free for their daily, like twice a day email newsletter updates. It will update you on who's signing where and who's, all the press release stuff, right? Comes through there. It doesn't cost you anything, but you can also pay and get the magazine. I pay to get the special edition magazines, which would be like the artist roster issue or the publisher issue, which has all these publishers in there. And you can look up and it's like, oh, this person's a GM of this, and there's a little something about the company or their roster or the in charge issue, which does all kinds of different companies, management,
Hmm.
publicity, labels, all that kind of stuff, and often we'll have a picture of the person there and a little bit about them, and you can start doing your homework. And so that's a great way to do it, because if you go out to an industry thing and you run into somebody, it just helps if you have an idea who they are.
Yeah, if you can
Like,
speak to them by name,
you
that
seem
always.
familiar. Wow, what do I know your name from? Oh, I'm the head of Demolition Music or whatever. Oh, okay. Which, I mean, not that everyone knows everyone, and not that you're expected to or whatever, but it just helps. And if you want this to be your business, study the business.
That's
They'll let
right.
you
Don't
talk
go
about people.
don't go the David Spade route. You remember that character he used to have on Saturday Night Live, where
Which
it's
one is this? I know who David Spade is, but
he plays the gatekeeper for like whoever it is in a
oh, he
bank.
was. Oh, yeah, he was like he was like at the front desk. He's like,
Yeah,
and you
and you be. And
are
he's like, I'm Jesus Christ. He's like, right, and with.
with God, and you
Yeah.
hear about.
He doesn't recognize him, doesn't care. He's like, I don't know if we have any time. Like, I'm gonna need,
Yeah, I remember that now.
It's
That's
so
funny.
funny.
I remember years ago, and so it was right after Monday Morning Church got cut, but before it was like out,
Uh-huh.
and I was at some after party after like an award show or something. I still didn't have much going on because that was my first cut, but it hadn't been out. But I'm kind of around, I'm hanging out, and we're at the Sunset Grill. It's not there anymore, but over like
Mhm.
was what area is that?
It's kind of by
Green,
the village, like in the
yeah,
village.
the Village, and it was dark in there because it's like midnight. And the lights are low, and everyone's just hobnobbing, whatever, industry people and people like me, who's not yet an industry person. But anyway, shook hands with one guy. We're chatting, and he's like, "Oh, whatever, you're right." I'm like, "Yeah, I just got my first cut." He's like, "Great, what is it?" I was like, "Alan Jackson, Monday Morning Church," but it hadn't come out yet. He goes, "Well, I love that song." I'm like, "Oh, you know it? It hadn't been like it's not out yet." He goes,
Yeah, how
"How
do
do you
you
know
know
it?" He goes, "I produced it." and and I'm looking at it's dark, and I'm like, "That's Keith Seagal. Dadgummit." I'm like, "Oh my gosh." Because for one thing, even in like the headshots I've seen of him was like
Uh-huh.
back when he had like the record deal. So it was like 10 years old. And then you're in a different context and the light is coming from the top and you like,
Yeah.
it's hard to see people's faces anyway. I was like,
Is it piece
"Oh
to
my
go, or
gosh."
is it like a mafia guy because of the way the lighting is,
Yeah,
right? It's like
exactly. I was like, "I'm sorry." That so that stuck with me for like almost 20 years now. But it was all right. I recovered, hopefully.
I feel like that would come across as like almost charming and innocent because you couldn't see who he
I
was,
was like, "What?" Turning the head, dipping, because I'm taller than him too. Like, "What? Oh my gosh. I'm sorry, dude. It sounds so good." Blah blah blah. Anyway, so anyway,
That's like when we recorded Josh Roy's record with Rob McNelly, and we're like, "Hey man, we got this like spooky guitar vibe. We want to show
oh,
it to you. It's on this Luke Bryan song
yeah,
called "Build Me Daddy." Like, check this out. This is kind of the vibe that we're thinking about for this song." And he's like, he listens again. He's like, I can see the wheels are turning. He's like,
yeah,
"That's me." He genuinely wasn't sure at first,
yeah,
right? Because it's just another session for him,
right,
right? It's like a fleeting,
yeah,
you know, maybe a couple hours in time because it
r-
was a big major label master track. But
mm.
he's like, and then we were like, oh, Mr. Big Pants or whatever, and everybody he just got so red in the face. He was laughing so hard, and he was like, no, listen, I'm not trying to brag, but I'm just trying to say that if this is the kind of sound that you want to get, like I can do that. Yeah,
You got the guy.
yeah, it's just funny, man. Like we didn't know, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
But we love it. Was so it was like just a really cool. It was genuinely like, this is awesome. Can we do something along this line? And he's like, hell yeah. I
yeah.
think people like that if you don't really know for sure.
That's
Kind of.
funny. That's funny. Let's see here. Another point to maximize your trip to Nashville is one of the best ways to make connections in the music industry is to attend networking and industry events. So, Nashville hosts a number of music industry events throughout the year, including the Americana Music Festival, CMA Fest, CRS, National Songwriters Festival. But you have, and those are more, some of those are more like festival fan stuff, but you have the NSAI Awards. You have the National Songwriters Hall of Fame induction ceremony. CRS is definitely more industry. You
Yeah,
have
Tin
these things.
Pan.
Do what?
Tin Pan.
Tin Pan South for sure.
Yep. In South. I said Alley. I meant South. But
Well,
yeah.
it's yeah, Tin Pan South, based on Tin Pan Alley. So you have those things. Attending those events can give you the opportunity to meet industry professionals and other songwriters. I mean, that's what I need to do. I was looking at got a voting thing for the Hall of Fame,
Yeah.
National Songwriters Hall of Fame. It's like, oh yeah, I need to go. I think it's like in mid-September or something. Like I need to go because you're talking about everybody's there. Last
Mhm.
or like I mean, that's where he ran into Kix Brooks again, and everybody's got tables, and you just it's a target-rich environment,
Yeah.
and you get a lot of bang for your buck. Now, some of those things are definitely ticketed. and maybe high priced or hard to get into. Things like ASCAP awards, BMI awards, if you can go to those things, obviously, but you got to be a little higher up in there to get an invite. They're not just y'all come. But think about those things and how you can get into those things. It may be worth building a trip around. Like, I'm going to pay the extra money to go to the National Songwriters Hall of Fame induction ceremony. One, you'll be so freaking inspired.
Mm-hmm.
Your hair will be on fire by the end of it because it's such an amazing night. I've been to several of them, praise the Lord, and they're just awesome.
Yeah.
The when they're singing people into it is because you have these great artists there singing people in. The speeches, the acceptance, thing it's just awesome. So you need
And that is that is like target rich environment is an understatement. That's like every time you turn around. I became besties with Kix Brooks. Uh,
to.
and the one I went to you with because there was like two bars
Yeah.
there and the slowest friggin' bartenders on the face of the planet. This was not talent behind the bar. Like they had some other talent. I don't know what talents they have. Everybody's got some talent. Bartending was not there, and it was taking forever. And so we just got in a conversation. And I had happened to have visited his winery, Arrington Winery, like the
Arrington Vineyards,
weekend
yeah.
before. And so I just started talking and I got into that. I was like, hey man, I just gotta tell you, like, while we're here, like your winery is awesome, dude. I loved it. I had this one, this one. He's like, really? I was like, yeah. And then he was asking me questions to genuinely like, how's the food? Like, you know what I mean? Like he's
Yeah.
like a businessman. And then he's just making jokes about how long it's taken, and everybody around us is laughing, and you know what I mean? Just happen to be standing next to me in line. We're buddy buddy. You
What
never know.
does this make possible? I could be
Yeah.
mad that it's taking me a while to get my cocktail, or I can be happy that it gives Kix Brooks longer to stand next to me.
Yeah, and then you and I turn our heads left, and what there here comes Chelsea like floating across the room, faces all flushed, like I just met Garth Brooks, I just met Garth Brooks, like oh
Yeah.
my god, oh my god, oh my god, well, how was he? I think you and I pointed her in the right direction.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
kind
yeah,
of pushed her out there because we're like, oh look who's that? Look who's
yeah.
here.
Go toward the scrum. There it is.
Yeah, that was
So
so funny. That was awesome. Yeah.
yeah, it was those are always amazing nights. So if you can, but that is a ticketed event. Like there's a lot of tables would be like
Mhm,
this publishing company, table for this label, table for that label. But you
mhm,
can also just get in like that year. I guess we just bought tickets or something. I don't remember. But
yeah.
so you're in the back, but it's amazing. And if you do your research ahead of time, you may have a better idea of who some of these people are. And when you're chatting, they're at the bars, and it's not like bar for the talent, bar for the rabble. No, it's you're all mixed in, right?
Mhm.
So it's those are good things. I remember last time it was pre-pandemic. I went to the NSAI Awards because they used to be all one night. NSAI Awards and the National Songwriters Hall of Fame. They split them out. Went to the NSAI Awards, and it was at the Ryman. And again, it's a little different crowd. Not as many label people and that kind of stuff as much, but we're all milling around the Ryman out in the lobby area, and just got to bump into so many people that just reconnect or meet new people. End up sitting right behind at the Ryman, right behind Zane and Donna King, who are already
Uh,
friends with, but we got to chat and that sort of thing. And so anyway, check out those events. It might be worth because everyone's going to be in town for those events, some of those big events. And so build around it because sometimes it may being like no one's going to be out, no one's available during CRS. Like CRS is not a good time if you want to try and write with artists. Yeah, they're going to be in town, but they're busy, right?
mhm.
I've had that happen. I'm like, dude, I can't. I got CRS stuff going all week. Hey, good problems.
Yep.
So whether you want to avoid a thing or go there during because people will be in town and more likely to be out, or you can go to the event and see a bunch of people. So that's something to think about. The other thing is be human. When meeting industry pros, it's important to be professional, polite, and respectful. Introduce yourself and let them know your goals. Be prepared to answer questions about your music and your background. And it's also important to follow up with anyone you meet by sending a thank you note or an email, something like that. A nice, genuine, hey, thanks, had a great time chatting with you. That sort of thing is a nice way to follow up. But just be human. They're humans. Like we're talking to Kix about the vineyard, which is an outside of music business interest he has,
Mhm.
and that sort of thing, and just going to chit chat. I mean, I sat next to Kix in an airport one time because on one of my flights to Nashville, we ended up in the Dallas airport. He sat like right next to me, and I was like, Okay, well, here we go.
Your
And
extra.
how do I be a good human here? And we just chatted for a while. Of course, he was super cool and
Yeah.
chatty and
Nice.
approachable, and I wasn't gurming him. It's just like, hey, by the way, I'm a pro writer. I've had some cuts. You and Ronnie doing a record? Like, what's up? And we
Yeah.
talked about the vineyard and different things. And so you just want to be human and have those conversations. I wrote with Jade Eagleson. He's a hit Canadian artist. He's having stuff happen other places too, but
Uh-huh.
his star is definitely on the rise. I got blessed to write with him and Michael August over Demolition on my last trip in. And so Michael was in a meeting because he's the GM of the publishing company as well. And so Jade and I were out in the lobby. And I don't know how we got on it, but we just started talking about like gardening and food and nutrition and different stuff. And just
Mhm.
it wasn't all about music. Like we connected on that stuff.
Yeah.
And then Michael came down and we started talking about, what the ingredients are like in Europe versus in the US and that
Yeah.
sort of thing, which I couldn't add much to that because I haven't really been to Europe other than Denmark. But they were talking about how the food tastes different and how different ingredients. And, we're just talking about human people stuff.
Yeah.
And that can be a point of connection. And it's funny, couple like the next week or something, I think my wife sent it to me, or somehow I saw like for Domino's pizza, like here's the list of ingredients in the US. It's like long as your arm, and here's the list of ingredients in the UK, and it's like the size of my pinky. It's like, oh, it's like I know what all those things are. And so I told my wife, yeah, because she showed it to me. I'm like, Emily, send that to me, please. So she shared that with me, and I of course sent it to Michael and Jade, and was like, hey, we were just talking about this. That's scary. And
Yeah.
Michael's like, dude, you just run Domino's, whatever. But connecting as people, that had nothing to do with the music business. That's just
Yeah.
stuff that we're interested in. And
That's right.
that's super important. So just remember that they are people. They have lives outside of music. They have interests. And if you can find one of those things just by being yourself, obviously you have music in common.
Mhm.
But if you have something else, hey, I love the Packers. Johnny's eyes are going to light up, right?
Mhm.
That sort of thing.
Yeah.
Um, last night before the Know the Pro with JMO, we were just talking about where he's from, and I mentioned I'm a Titans fan, and he's a hardcore Ravens fan because he grew up around the Baltimore area or somewhere in Maryland, I believe, and you're just like, oh, dude, the battles they had in the late '90s and the playoffs and blah blah blah. We
Mhm.
just as people got to geek out over a different common interest, and so I just want to encourage y'all to not be scared of that.
That's
That
right.
could really just help
They're just
connect with
people.
people. They're
They're
just
just
people,
people.
just like you people. So be good people.
Yeah.
So that's what I had. Hopefully that will help you maximize your trip to Nashville. Another way you can maximize your trip to Nashville is by writing songs that are more commercial and help people make money for them, which will also help you make money for you. And to help you do that, I have a free PDF download. It's called 6 Simple Ways to Make Your Songs More Commercial. And you can get it. It's my gift to you for hanging out with us. You can get that at the number 6 simple ways.songwritingpro.com. And you just tell me where to send it. We send it to you, and it'll help you. Just from my experience of people around me, like 6 simple ways to just, if you do these, your songs have a much better chance of being commercially valid. So there we go.
There we go. All right, guys. Well, that brings us to the end of another Killer Climb episode. Make sure you follow the podcast. Make sure that you join the Climb community, and make sure you tell a friend about it. Okay, if you're getting something out of it, help us help them. They can get something out of it too.
That's right.
This podcast exists because we want you to win.
And we'll see you at the top.